This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello. Welcome to the show, Leading in the 21st Century, with me, your host, Mark Nichols. I have to be honest with you all, guys. It has been a hectic day today. I've literally just sat down in the chair, preparing myself for this evening's show. I finally met Tom Rogers, the face of Teachers Talk Radio. Brilliant day today.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Okay, let's get this show started. As I was saying just earlier today, I had the privilege of attending the Bett show 2023. I met Teachers Talk Radio host, should I say, Tom Rogers and Seema, who does brilliant work behind the scenes in scheduling and promoting Teachers Talk Radio. So it has been a bit of a rush today. And with the weather outside, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like we've had probably 2 months worth of rain chucked down upon us in the space of a single day. I didn't realise just how bad it was because I have been inside all day. Driving home from London today was like more like sailing home, should I say. Anyway, let us move on with the show. So, greetings, my fellow educators. Welcome to another captivating episode of Leading in the 21st Century. Now, I am your host, Mark Nichols. I am an experienced educator, having taught for now almost 15 years, around about that figure. I'm an educational leader. I'm a full-time teacher, teaching English. And this radio show explores the challenges that educators face, especially educational leaders face in the 21st century. I'm committed for you, my listeners, in exploring the cutting edge of technology as well within education. You know, if you've listened to previous shows, you would have heard discussions surrounding the concept of STEAM. That was our last episode 2 weeks ago. We've explored artificial intelligence. We've explored digitalization. We've explored what the future of education may look like. But tonight, we have a truly enlightening and interactive show designed specifically for you. Now, you are my dedicated educators, and you are shaping the minds of the future. So I hope that this episode is going to help guide you in this shaping of students of the 21st century. Now, join us on this remarkable journey as we delve into the intriguing world of AI policy, both here, in the UK, but also across the globe. Now, just to give you a bit of background, I've been trialing with new segments for this show, and I'm going to stick with a segment that we created a fair few weeks ago now. It is Did You Know, unanimously named there. But our Did You Know segment today is going to be focused on artificial intelligence, AI uncovered, if you will. And this is where, we will unveil some lesser known facts and thought-provoking insights, I guess, about the rapid evolution of AI, artificial intelligence, and its impact on education. Quite relevant because today at Bett 2023, there was lots of discussion surrounding this disruptive technology. I hope that if you've tuned in, that through listening to this podcast, you will be helping to stay ahead of the curve in this ever-evolving landscape. But wait, that's not all. That's just one segment. I kid you not. There is more. I will also give you an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the renowned Bett Show 2023. Now, this is the event that brings together thought leaders, innovators, educators, consultants, the best of the best in the edtech world, coming together to discuss and present the future of learning. In this segment of the show, I will be sharing with you my own reflections and the key takeaways from this inspiring event. I tell you, this is fresh in my mind. I've literally pulled up, I've picked up my kids from school today. Well, I should say I picked them up. We swam out of school today. And I've come home, sat down in this chair, and I'm ready to just let loose on the experience of being at Bett 2023. And that's going to be, the core segment of the show, where I provide you with, my first-hand account of meeting, many professionals there, the panels, question panels that I observed. The interviews that I conducted along with fellow TTR host Tom Rogers, the networking that was involved there, even the coffee. The coffee was top notch. I've got a really, really compliment New Line Technologies, the screen developers and providers. Interactive screen, should I say, that had hosted TTR, like their coffee was second to none. Anyway, this show isn't about coffee. It's about groundbreaking ideas and technologies that are redefining education in the 21st century. Now, that's not all. So not only am I going to allow you to delve into the unknown or the realms of AI uncovered, not only am I going to give you insight into Bett 2023, I will also dive deep into the UK's latest policy on AI in education. Some of you will probably be aware that this week, almost by coincidence, one might say, is Bett being launched on Wednesday. The DfE published its policy, finally published policy guiding schools and the education sector on artificial intelligence. This has been a long time coming. I haven't had a chance to fully comprehend the document itself. However, I will be giving you a small review of this policy at the very end of the show, dissecting some of its implications and the potential challenges that face educators in the 21st century. This is going to be integral to your classroom practice. Now, I hope that this analysis, will ignite, some thought-provoking conversation on how we as educators are going to navigate, this uncharted territory. As I've said in previous episodes of Leading in the 21st Century, this is very much the wild west of the digital age. And there will be lots of to-ing and fro-ing towards this concept of artificial intelligence. Say concept, it's not an idea anymore, it is an actual thing. But it is much like the Wild West. So let's strap in. Let's join me on this extraordinary journey as we explore the frontiers of technology and education, as we break down those barriers, as we unlock the limitless potential of leading in the 21st century. Now, your participation and insights are invaluable to Teacher Talk Radio, so do not hesitate to call in. If you're listening live through Podbean app, call in. Cheers, Tom. I can see the Bett Hero comment there, but call in. I will be available. I'll take your questions. If not, follow us on social media. Use the hashtag Teachers Talk Radio, hashtag Leading in the 21st Century, if you will. And let's embark on this adventure together and pave the way for a brighter and more inclusive future for all. Now, let's move on to our first segment. Did you know? Okay, so fellow educators, it's time to embark on an electrifying journey into our first segment of the evening. This is AI Uncovered, the Did You Know segment of the show. Prepare to be amazed as we unveil some of the truly unique and intriguing facts about the world of artificial intelligence that you might not have encountered before. We'll also dig a little bit deeper and explore the impact of these potential implications for education. So, did you know? This is fact one, by the way. Did you know the term artificial intelligence was first coined back in 1956 at the Dartmouth Conference, an event that brought together leading computer scientists of the time to explore the potential of machines simulating human intelligence? It was first coined in 1956. Now, as educators, this reminds us, I suppose, as to how far AI has come since its early beginnings. We're in 2023 now. I know it's 20 odd years away, 20, 25, 27 years even, until we get to 2050. But we're talking almost 75 years now since the term AI was coined, when we had professionals in the field of computer science debating, the potentiality of machines simulating human intelligence. And we are now in the 21st century beginning to realize, what impact this will have on us as educators. It reminds us just how far it's come since then. Today we are witnessing AI driven innovations in the classroom. And that would have been unimaginable just a few decades ago. I say unimaginable a few decades ago. I would say it was probably unimaginable maybe 2-3 years ago, before the pandemic. I spoke to many teachers, prior to ChatGPT being launched in November, even just 6 months prior, about the possibility of AI in education. And quite often it was battered away as, or humoured as, to be something that was far into the future. This is not going to have an impact on us, at least for 10, 15, 20 years. But here we are debating now. Here we are going to be reviewing the AI policy from the DfE, which is going to have a significant impact on education. Fact 2. Did you know one of the earliest AI programs was called ELIZA? She was developed in the 1960s by Joseph Weizenbaum at MIT. ELIZA simulated a psychotherapist engaging users in text-based conversations. So the 1960s, our first AI program had a name, ELIZA, and she engaged with participants through, again, that chatbot sort of system that we see in ChatGPT, or Google Bard now, should I say. Now, this early example highlights the power of AI to foster human-like interactions. In the classroom, conversational AI tools could possibly provide valuable support for students and teachers alike, helping to bridge communication gaps and, potentially, enhance those learning experiences. And, if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, okay, that's just a load of rubbish, it is not. I've seen it with my own eyes today. Engaging with large language model simulators that respond in real time to the work that students are completing, giving advice, setting the pace for an individual student, personalized to them. And this is coming from the back of the 1960s, when we have this psychotherapist AI engaging in text-based conversations. I would imagine that program would have been incredibly simplistic, perhaps, a limited algorithm that would respond in turn. But from what we're seeing today, we have quite a complex and highly engaging system, which is only going to become more complex as time goes on. So this is very much a reality for us today. It was first done in the 1960s. We are now in the 2020s. Time's moved on. We are going to see that progress. Now, fact 3. Did you know AI is no longer limited to just one language? Today, AI language models can understand and generate text in hundreds of languages, breaking down communication barriers and fostering global collaboration in the field of education. I absolutely love this fact. Genuinely, it reminds me very much. I mean, I'm an English teacher, by the way, in case anyone didn't, you've just tuned into the podcast or you've just tuned in live. I absolutely love literature. I love reading, but I'm a huge fan of science fiction. I remember my geography A level lecturer, environmental science A level lecturer as well. Actually, he did both. But I remember him handing me a book in my teens saying, "You need to read this, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy." I'm talking here about the babble fish, this little fish that you would pop into your ear and it would break down any language in the universe, whether it's alien, whether it is Dutch, French, English, whatever it may be. It automatically translates, and you have instant access to all languages across the globe, across the universe, should I say, in the case of Hitchhiker's Guide. Now, this is interesting for us as educators because we could now harness multilingual lingual capability to create a more inclusive learning environment. I will speak about this from one of our keynote speakers from Bett today, who made specific reference to this as to what impact it had on her classroom. But the point that I want to make with this particular fact is that this use of AI is only taking us one step forward into that globalized world that seems to have been creeping up on us over the past 20, 30, 40 years, however long it has been happening. It's just one step closer to bringing unity to the world that we live in. Plus it might cause some apprehension to our MFL teachers out there, possibly. I mean, I love the MFL departments. I love walking in and saying, right, so we don't need you anymore. Let's just get the AI chatbots out there and we can do away with those MFL teachers. Usually I get pens and various bric-a-brac thrown at me if that were to ever happen. But I dearly do love my colleagues in MFL, and I do humour them. Just to put the record straight, I don't actually think that MFL teachers will be replaced. I think they do so much more than just teach a language. They are teaching students skills to think and operate in different ways, in different manners. It's not just about breaking down that language. It's about thinking in a different language. It's about thinking and creating different links in that brain of ours. So there'll always be a need, in my opinion, for MFL teachers. Now, fact 4. Did you know AI-powered adaptive learning systems have revolutionized the way we teach and learn? That's not really much of a fact, is it? I think most of us will be aware of that. I mean, these systems can analyze students' performance in real time. Sorry, that's my dog growling at my rabbits. Apologies. These systems can analyze students' performance in real time, providing personalized feedback and adjusting the learning path to suit each individual's unique needs. I've spoken about this at length in previous shows, and I will be speaking about it later in this show as well as we review some of the panels that I had experienced today. Now, this personalization can obviously make a significant difference in the classroom. It's one of the trends of future thinking schools is to personalize education, and this is a big step for ed tech companies and for future educators to tailor their approach to each student, ensuring that no learner is going to get left behind. I could sum it up for you in the words, in some words, that if you think about your traditional disadvantaged students now, as opposed to your advantaged students, let's say your PP versus your non-PP. Now, your non-PPs, if they're struggling with a piece of work at home, they might approach their parents. They would ask their parents for support and guidance. Their parents would give that support and guidance. Now, your PP students or your disadvantaged students, same piece of work, they don't understand it. What they might not have access to is parents that would support them with that piece of work. Personalized AI might be able to step in and plug that gap, to give fair and equal access. It's not going to be exclusive for one set of student or one type of student. It's going to be accessible to all, allowing education to be personalized across the spectrum, and hopefully break down that barrier between the disadvantaged and the non-disadvantaged once and for all. Fact 5. Did you know artificial intelligence is playing a critical role in addressing some of the world's most pressing environmental challenges? From predicting natural disasters to optimizing renewable energy sources, AI powered solutions are driving sustainable development for a greener future. By incorporating AI driven sustainability initiatives into our own curricula, whether that be in actual curriculum time devoted, within science lessons, let's say, or geography or English or history, whatever it may be, or if it's some form of co-curricular or super curriculum, whatever it may be, if we are incorporating these AI-driven sustainability initiatives into our curricula, we can inspire the next generation of environmental stewards, equipping them with the knowledge and skills to tackle the global challenges for tomorrow. This very much is future thinking. There is huge pressure on our environment today, and there is this kind of call to arms in the education sector concerning like the assimilation of and adoption of students, and growing the next generation of environmentalists, and AI is going to play a critical role in that. Fact 6, I promise you there's just one more fact to go and then we'll be through with this segment. Now, fact 6, did you know that AI has even ventured into the realm of art? By the way, I absolutely love pieces of art. I was doing some research because at the moment I really, really like the idea of creating like an art gallery within the English corridor, the English wing of my new school. And I really, really want to kind of have that cross-curricular links between, famous pieces of art, significant pieces of art, and the texts and the curriculum upon which I'm planning and delivering to students at my school. So I just absolutely love it. And there's one particular unit where, I want to tie in this piece of artwork, the first piece of artwork that was sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, created purely by AI. It fetched a very, very high price. I don't have the exact figure off the top of my head. But fast forward, I think it's 4 or 5 years, you can now have the likes of certain how can I put this without dropping the names in? Certain search engine image creators that will do artwork for you in a matter of seconds. Great if you are trying to design business cards or you just want to do a bit of artwork. It's up to you. Anyway, these neural networks, a type of AI model, have been used to generate original paintings, music compositions. It can even be used to write poetry. So AI, clearly is going perhaps change the face of the artistic culture that we have in society. Now, it is a creative application of AI, and it's going to. I feel that this particular aspect of AI is going to challenge us to redefine what the boundaries of art and technology in education is, if that makes sense. If we integrate AI generated art into our classrooms, we're going to encourage students to think critically about the role of that technology in the creative process. When is a piece of art no longer a piece of art? Just because it's been created by an algorithm, and does that automatically rule it out as, okay, that's not a piece of art because it's not created by a human being? What if they didn't know that it was a piece of art that was created by an algorithm and it still evoked an emotional response? Let's say it's a piece of music that really, appeals to that individual. I don't think it will be long actually before musicians and artists start to utilize AI to generate higher forms of art that really do inspire new audiences. It might even inspire new forms of artistic expression. We might even see a new artistic movement come into fruition because of artificial intelligence. We don't know what those boundaries are. So I feel that particular fact that AI is crept, it's not really crept, has smashed into the artistic realm, is quite an important fact to consider, especially for any art teachers out there. Now, my final fact within this segment of the show is, did you know AI is transforming healthcare and medical research by aiding in the development of new drugs, predicting disease outbreaks, as well as improving diagnostics? As educators, we can utilize AI advancements in healthcare to enrich our science and health curricula. Now, this will inspire students to pursue careers in these fields, potentially contributing to life-saving breakthroughs. You know, you know, I can't stress the importance of this. I suppose this is a much wider point regarding artificial intelligence, and that is, the careers and the disruption that AI is going to cause, future careers, is something that's really important. And if any of your students are out there looking to pursue careers in the sciences, in medicine, then you have to, it's your moral responsibility as an educator to discuss with them the concept of AI, the technology itself, and begin at least future proofing, future thinking what the advancements in healthcare will be, because they are going to come about rapidly. Okay. Now, that wraps up our Did You Know AI Uncovered segment. I do appreciate you listening through that with me. I absolutely love this segment because I learn as much from this experience as I'm sure you guys do. I hope the fascinating facts have engaged you and they've ignited your curiosity and they've given you some food for thought on the potential that AI holds. Now, stay tuned. We are going to break the news, and then after, we are going to dive into the next segment where I take you into the exclusive behind-the-scenes tour of the Bett Show 2023. So, stay tuned. Enjoy the news.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out! Visit johncattbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading!
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
In a week where Ofsted has found itself under increased pressure and scrutiny following the death of a primary school head teacher, The Independent has focused on the decision by many school leaders to remove references to Ofsted from websites. The removal of logos and other references from school letterheads, websites and other materials is being done in what many describe as solidarity with head teacher Ruth Perry. Other forms of protest against the inspectorate have included the wearing of black clothing and displaying photographs of Ms Perry in schools where inspections are taking place. Unions have also urged Ofsted to pause inspections, and the NEU handed in a petition to the Department for Education, which had 45,000 signatures, calling for an accountability system that was supportive, effective and fair. In a statement, Amanda Spielman, HMCI, said it would be against children's best interests to pause inspection, and that inspection was important for both schools and parents. It has been further revealed by the BBC that inspectors had visited Caversham Primary School, where Ms Perry was head teacher, in 2019, as part of a pilot of the latest inspection framework, and that Ms Spielman had also been present. In a newsletter written at the time, Ms Perry said she was proud of how well pupils and staff had responded to the experience and that feedback had been overwhelmingly positive. But a formal inspection in November 2022 rated Caversham Primary as inadequate as a result of failings in training, record keeping and checks on staff, although it did also state that children were provided with a good education and that the school was a welcoming and vibrant community. In a statement, Amanda Spielman said that the debate about reforming inspections to remove grades was legitimate, but any changes would need to meet the needs of parents and government. And a spokesman for the Prime Minister said, We are confident the current rating system provides the right level of transparency for parents. In Manchester, students at the city's university who have been refusing to pay their rent in protest at high costs have been removed from a university building by bailiffs. The group of rent strikers had occupied the University of Manchester's Simon building, and videos on the BBC News website appeared to show some protesters being carried out. A spokesperson for the university said it regretted the action, but that the protest had been going on for a significant amount of time. Campaigners said the situation was disgraceful and shamed the university. Around 250 students cancelled payments in January and demanded a 30% reduction in rent, arguing they were struggling to buy food amid the cost of living crisis. A smaller group occupied the building, and it was this group who were removed by bailiffs, enforcing a court order after they had ignored multiple requests to leave. At the University of Birmingham, a recovery flat where students with different addictions can live together to help them complete their studies has been opened. The BBC reports on the programme, which is being pioneered by the university, and is trying to help students stay addiction-free. The Vale, a huge student village near the campus in Edgbaston, is home to thousands of undergraduates. In one of the large blocks of flats, 6 units have now been set aside for students in recovery. Supported by a peer manager, the flats are alcohol and drug-free, and currently are male only, although it is hoped another flat for 6 female students will open next year. The hope is that students can enjoy university life without missing out on support. The programme is supporting the Better Than Well project, which currently supports around 50 students, and was set up to help students with addictions to be successful at university and with their recovery. On South Townside, a primary school in Jarrow kick-started their Kindness Matters Week as it became the first Kindness Matters school in the area. Pupils at St Joseph's Catholic Primary School and its staff were asked, "What does kindness mean to you?" And, in the run-up to the main event, completed a 30-day Kindness Matters challenge. Kindness Matters was set up in 2012 by John McGee, known as the Kindness Coach, and it teaches kindness and well-being to school children and teachers. McGee visited the school as part of the week, where he led a super learning day focusing on what the pupils had done so far and what they would do next to help the world be more kind. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I've got to episode 60. What better to celebrate 60 episodes but look at what potentially happens every 60 seconds online and do it in 60 seconds. To do this, I've used the term infographic in my search. Infographics are a great way to show visually a lot of data. They're not just for IT concepts, and I'd recommend seeing if you can find any that represent your subject. The most recent infographic I found was in a blog by Stephanie Heitman called What Happens in an Internet Minute. Feel free to look her up and read her research. Right, here we go. Start the countdown. In an internet minute, 174,000 apps are downloaded, 16.2 million texts are sent, 231 million emails are sent, 694 million songs are streamed, 6 million people buy something online, 5.9 million Google searches are made, 44 million people view Facebook live streams, 20.8 thousand active users are on LinkedIn, 2.1 million people are active on Facebook, 575,000 tweets are sent, 46,000 searches are done on Pinterest, 66,000 photos and videos are shared on Instagram, 2 million Snapchats are sent, 167 million videos are watched on TikTok, 452,000 hours of content are streamed on Netflix, 3.67 million YouTube videos are watched, and that's just the headlines of an internet minute. That's a lot of data flying around on the biggest network of networks there is, the internet. As always, if you have a question on tech, why not send it to @TT Radio Official. I'm Steve Woods, and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Okay. Now, welcome back to the show, Leading in the 21st Century, where I, your host, Mark Nichols, will take you on a journey into the 21st century as we explore the latest technology and insights into the world that we call education. Now, in this next stage of the show, this is quite experimental, really. There was a part of me that was hoping to gain some new networking opportunities and to convince professionals to call in this afternoon and feed into this segment. Unfortunately, I did not succeed in my quest to gain those networking opportunities, although I did network a great deal at the show. So instead, I'm going to kind of relive the experience for you, my dear listeners, and also just give you a bit of history as to what the Bett Show is, because I'm conscious that some of you who are listening to this live or to the podcast itself, you may not know what Bett Show 2023 actually is. You may have some inclination. So we're going to unpack it. I'm going to explore for you, my kind of overview of the show itself, a little bit of history on the show as well, just to give you that context. Some of the panels that I attended, some of the keynote speakers, some of the networking opportunities, and some of the key takeaways, either from the innovation that I had witnessed at the show or the ideas that we discussed. And I also will be making reference to Bobby, the barista who plied me with coffee throughout the day. It was a pleasure to have met him as well. So let us get started. Now, I just want to kind of explore with you the history of Bett. Now, the Bett Show, which is an acronym for the British Educational Training and Technology, began as a kind of like a visionary endeavour in the 1980s. I believe it was actually in 1985, a year before I was born. So the show itself is just as old as I am. And the purpose of the show was to bridge the gap between education and technology. And since its inception, Bett has grown exponentially. It's established itself as a premier event for educators, technology providers, and innovators, not just within Britain itself, because obviously it is a British brand, as it were, but across the globe. We're talking a global reach where, people from across the world come to Bett, in London, Bett London 2023, to kind of ply their wares, to discuss the future of education, and to showcase the most cutting edge in technology. Now, this annual show has been instrumental in driving educational standards, educational transformation. It's impacted the lives of countless students and teachers. For me personally, the first time I had even heard of the show was probably about 5 years ago, when one of the craziest assistant head teachers or deputy head teachers that I'd worked for, I say crazy, he genuinely, if he's listening to the show, my apologies, Mr. Edwards, but he was, up there. He was an architect in a previous career, designer, and he had some great ideas, crazy ideas. But he introduced me to the concept of Bett and showed me what it could do. And he brought back with him like game-changing technology into the school where I worked. So from that point forward, I was like, actually, this sounds like a pretty decent venue to learn about this cutting edgeness of the educational world. Now, the inception of the Bett Show in 1985 actually coincided with the rapid growth of personal computing. We're talking about the 1980s here, the emergence and mass marketing of computer technology. And obviously, that was personal computing, but also computing in the classroom. Now, at around about that time, technology was quickly becoming an essential tool for teaching and learning, and Bett recognised the need for a dedicated platform to showcase the latest innovations in EdTech. Now, over the years, the show has evolved to meet the ever-changing landscape of education technology, should I say, from the early days of desktop computers and CD-ROMs to the rise of the internet, mobile devices, and more recently, as we've discussed, as I heard continually discussed today, artificial intelligence. Bett has been a driving force behind the adoption of this cutting-edge tools and solutions in the classroom. I'm going to share with you very quickly some milestones in the history of the Bett Show, and that includes in the 1990s when Bett started to gain momentum as as an international event. And this is when it attracted exhibitors and visitors from around the world. And during this time, the internet began to reshape education. Remember the 1990s where you had dial-up internet, for example. Bett played a crucial role in introducing educators to the World Wide Web and its potential for revolutionising teaching and learning. So if you're sat there and you're listening to me speak right now and you're thinking, okay, could you plan a lesson without using the internet today? Do you incorporate the internet into your classroom practice? If you do, then you've got to thank the innovators that attended the show, in the 1990s, because they were the ones driving the World Wide Web. They were the ones speaking about this. In the early 90s, we're talking here, they were the ones talking about this great internet that would connect computers and devices together, to the point where, fast forward into the modern age, into a contemporary age, where we may take it for granted. So it's kind of like this kind of breeding ground for innovation. So you might look at Bett and think, oh, okay, yeah, it's too far out there. But actually, it's the starting point that drives the cutting edge. Now, in the 2000s, Bett continued to expand. It showcased a range of emerging technologies, such as interactive whiteboards, mobile devices, learning management systems. And I can tell you now, they plug a lot of money into the management and the systems and operations for education. Anyone that works on a senior leadership team in terms of the management of schools, there's a lot to be had and explored at the show. Now, the event became a forum for educators to explore new ways of integrating this technology into classrooms as well as schools across the board. Now, in the 2010s, now we're getting to the age when I start teaching here. The Bett Show entered, was it 2008? I think I started teaching. It was around about the year when Barack Obama, just before he was became the US president for his first inning. So around about 2007, 2008, I think. Is that right? Ignore me. No, don't ignore me, because this is a radio show. You need to listen to this stuff. But ignore the previous comment. But in the 2010s, Bett, focused on the role of technology in supporting personalised learning. So this is where we first start to get that concept as to how the digital platform can help personalise learning, as well as develop the digital citizenship, global collaboration, as it were. This is where we see the rise of mobile learning, cloud computing, and increasing importance of data analytics in education. If you're familiar with cloud platforms where you save all of your resources, I'm talking X Drives, Winpool, the places where all of the school's documents are saved on the cloud. It started at Bett. That's where it began. The movements began. I think SharePoint, for example, the early days in the 2010s, if anyone can remember. Now, in the 2020s, that's where we are currently. We're moving into the current decade. Now, the show continues to adapt and evolve, addressing the challenges and opportunities presented by artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, as well as the growing emphasis on digital well-being and online safety. Now, throughout its history, the Bett Show has been a catalyst for change, as I've already discussed, and it's inspired generations of educators, including myself, and innovators to embrace the transformative power of technology. The event today attracts over 40,000 attendees, probably more, to be perfectly honest. It spans across 3 days. Have many people from across the globe. I think it's somewhere akin to 150, possibly more, different countries that come and explore. For example, I was wandering through a section of the Excel Centre today, and there's like a whole global showcase with each country, each nationality having their own kind of embassy, as it were, bringing technology that they are utilising in their education systems to share and explore across the globe. It is a dynamic platform for networking, for learning and collaboration. you see educators. You could spot a teacher a mile off, I would say. You could see the teachers, not only because they have a big badge that says teacher on the front, but generally just the way they're walking around and looking at these things. You then know who the consultants are and the business managers, the ones that are selling the wares. They're the ones that are suited and booted, and they are applying their wares to you. Then you have, and this is my favourite. Okay, this is my take on this. You then have the technicians, the IT guys. You can see them wandering through. Usually, and I'm going to use a simile here. They're like packs of kind of hobgoblins to some extent. I'm so sorry, that's quite offensive. Not hobgoblins, packs of wolves, let's say, but they are usually together in bands and they're wandering the halls. And they know their stuff. They're not going to be ripped off. I overheard one person come into the stand where I was working today at New Line, and there's like, yep, I'm not going to be ripped off or pay extortionate prices for screens. So tell us what you've got on offer. And it's just that kind of gusto that the techies have. They've gone there to solicit and find the technology for these settings upon which they're working. And I just, I find it hilarious. I find it absolutely brilliant that they're there. Catherine, I can see you've tuned in to the show here. You used to come to Bett with Global Leap and Polycom before you became a teacher. So you were familiar with Bett even before becoming a teacher yourself. So I would imagine you would have taken that into the profession with yourself when you started teaching. You absolutely loved it. I can't blame you for that, because it is, it's an exhilarating experience. More difficult to get out of school for the day to attend these days. It's been jealous of all the pics this week. That is the thing. I am really, really lucky, and I will put a shout out for my current head teacher at the moment, because Reese, as soon as I asked and said, look, I really would like to attend this show, I've got an opportunity to come along to it, he didn't hesitate. He's like, nope, that's fine, go along, learn, grow as a profession, bring some information back to the school that we could benefit from. And and my colleagues as well that had covered my classes for me, they're absolutely fantastic. And Catherine, if you ever do get the chance, try to get in there again. It'd be great to know, Catherine, as to what your role is within your current school now. In terms of what you're doing, it says you focused on digital learning. And, are you writing a digital policy, for example? Are you bringing that to the attention? You say RE teacher. I think your role, Catherine, I love the fact this is Catherine, you are one of the first people that have engaged with me via the chat here, other than anyone else from TTR. So I really do appreciate this. Oh no, my first show I had quite a few people actually, but not to this level. I think you've got a really important role in education, Catherine. As an RE teacher, I would imagine you touch upon philosophy and ethics as well. In the 21st century, I feel, and I think there are many other professionals that think it's so geeky. There are many practitioners that believe that actually every school should have like a resident philosopher, that is going to be discussing like the ethics that sit behind the leadership and management of these digital systems that are inside of schools, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence and some of the decisions that have to be made by educational leaders. So, if ever you get the chance to share your voice about the ethical concerns, I would definitely recommend that you do so. And you may be interested, Catherine, if you look back through the podcasts, I do have a few episodes where I talk about the ethics sitting behind the digitalization of education itself. I even once interviewed Plato, so you may be interested in that. Anyway, I've given you the context to Bett. I hope that you've gained some insight into the show itself. I just want to kind of breeze over now my reflections on the show itself. Now, this is the first time actually that I have attended. I have followed it in the past, ever since it was introduced to me by Mr. Edwards. but this is the first time in attendance, so it was quite an overwhelming experience for me from the offset. As soon as I got there, I beelined straight to the arena, whereupon I sat in the first seminar of the day, which was Free Trends Driving the Future of Education. I'll talk about that in more detail as we go through these reflections. But that really did set the bar. Beautiful stage, well lit. It was innovative. It looked cutting edge. The speakers were professional, and they did touch upon, the future trends of education itself. It was an unforgettable experience. It brought together the show itself. I felt brought together the brightest minds in education, as well as technology. Obviously, I've mentioned it brought it from across the globe. It offered unique opportunities to collaborate. I noticed that there were collaborative spaces where professionals could sit down, schedule meetings via social media, and discuss at length, as opposed to just wandering aimlessly, looking for whatnot. Everywhere I seemed to look, there were people sat together that you wouldn't necessarily see sat together. People dressed in suits, people wearing some really outlandish costumes. I even saw a unicorn dancing to YMCA at one point. It was like a flash dance, I believe. But it was, quite an eye-opening event in itself. I was truly amazed, by the diversity of stalls and ideas, as well as the passion for shaping the future of education. Lots of people were there talking about the future and what, their kind of perception as to what that future looked like and how we as educators could support. I think what we'll do, I will share with you some of the keynote speakers that I listened to today, so that kind of you get some insight as to kind of who I listened to. So certain seminars I went to. So the first one, I mentioned earlier, speakers that I listened to were John Solomon, who is like the VP for Google Chrome operation system, and Google Classroom Education. Google. I don't know if I could use the term Google there, but he had some very interesting insights that I'll share with you a bit further on in this reflection, as well as listening to an art teacher, Andrea Zafaruku, and she shared her experiences of using and utilizing AI and technology in the art classroom. Now, specifically, these guys spoke at length about the role that Google has played in shaping education. And I know when I sat there in this audience, I felt, right, okay, this is clearly, a huge plug at selling a particular platform. I mean, there are other platforms out there that you could kind of hook into, but this did feel like a bit of a plug and a bit of a selling of this one platform. But it did highlight specific trends that I have discussed in previous shows, that I have explored in my own research, as well as the research of others. UCL, University College London, for example, recently did a think piece on the future school, to which I've written extensively about and even broadcast a show on the future school, much akin to the trends that were demonstrated in this first speech that I attended. I listened to keynote speakers from Microsoft. I didn't get their names, but I did sit in the audience and just listen to what they spoke about. Again, speaking about the challenges that face educators today, the pandemic causing sharp declines in reading fluency and math, emotional well-being, looking to prioritize future-ready skills and soft skills. And actually, that's one thing that I felt throughout this. No matter where I went, no matter who I was listening to or talking to, there was this discussion on a set of soft skills. It was always soft skills that was mentioned. I don't like the term soft skills because it gives it kind of like this impression that they're skills that aren't necessarily at the center of education, but they're kind of on the fence, on the perimeter. And these soft skills are the 21st century skills in communication, in igniting curiosity, in collaboration, in critical thinking, these softer skills, as they were kind of discussed, and then this kind of opposition toward knowledge and the knowledge rich curriculums that the UK has. And there just seemed to be a huge disconnect between the two. And that to me really did stand out in the day. That's my personal reflection. I don't know if that is the same for others that attended, but I really, that really did kind of resonate with me. I listened to a few speakers, and actually they all kind of shared that sentiment that if the newer generations are going to succeed in this century, there has to be development and adoption and assimilation of these softer skills. But these softer skills sometimes go against perhaps what the national curriculum or what the DFE or what even Ofsted are looking for in terms of robust systems within schools. I'm not saying that there isn't a place for knowledge-rich curriculums, but I'm saying perhaps there should be some recognition that these softer skills are going to play an integral part to the systems that we deliver in the future. Some other keynote speakers that I listened to intently were, let me just make sure I get their names correct. Matt Wingfield, who was the chief executive of the E-Assessment Association. He had a lot to say about the future of assessment with his panel, and I'll discuss the panel question show later. John Kleeman and John Winkley, respectively, leaders within their own sectors of assessment online, Learnosity and Alpha Plus. Alpha Plus being an arm of AQA. I was very interested in what this guy had to say, and I'll put the questions to you later. We also had Jessica Blakely and Isabel Gonthier, both of which are leaders, VPs within their own fields, innovating, again, assessment online, etc., etc. So, they're just some of the keynote speakers that I've kind of reviewed and explored through the day. There were, groundbreaking technologies as well that I thought really did stand out to me. And I'm going to go back to that kind of the very first session that I sat through. And something that really did catch my attention was this concept of how educators may approach students that are working at different skill levels. Again, we're going back to that first trend of personalising the learning. By the way, the three trends that were challenging education, future education: personalised learning, elevating teachers, and establishing a growth mindset. All stuff that I hope that you are familiar with. So nothing new for me there, but that could be new to you in terms of the trends of future education. Now, Google, this online platform, should I say, announced an up-and-coming feature within its cloud platform Classroom that aims to address the very issue of personalised learning. And this is going to be called practice sets. Now, we saw a video. We heard them speak about this at length and the research that's gone into it. I didn't see it in person, but they did speak about it on the stage and they did share it with us. So this is something very much that is cutting edge and is being developed as we speak. They described it as a game-changing tool that is going to give teachers the time and resource to better support students and create more interactive lessons that will personalise feedback for students in live time. I am going to pause there for dramatic emphasis. We're talking live time, feedback in live time. Every single student in your classroom. Imagine you've got a class of 30. You set them a task. They get to work, typing away, let's say. They're working through the content. And as they are doing so, what Google has proposed is that the feedback is going to come live. It's powered through artificial intelligence, machine learning, but the feedback is going to come at those students personally in that moment. Now, it could be that I, for example, typing away, I know what I'm doing, I'm making good progress, I'm ticking all of the boxes for my assessment criteria. And the feedback that the AI gives me as a student is keep it going, you're doing great. So really positive feedback, and then I might get to a challenge toward the end. So it's kind of like a teaching assistant that the student has that is going to be pushing them on. Then there might be my younger sister next to me. Now she's working away. She struggles. She's not the sharpest tool in the shed. She'll kill me for saying that, so please don't repeat it if you know who she is. She doesn't listen to this show. It's too highbrow for her. But she's working away and she gets stuck. She starts to slow down. She can't figure out, what the next step is or how she's improving. And she gets lost in the work. The AI is going to feed back to her hints, tips, suggestions, prompts, whatever it may be, to guide her in her work. Now, I felt that for me, this was the most innovative technology that I saw today. I didn't see it like physically there being used, but the presentation, it was delivered to us, it's coming. So there's the promise of it coming. Obviously, there probably are limitations there, but just the thought of that excited me. And I would like very much to play around with that in the future if it is going to benefit every student in my class and also support me, in giving that timely feedback. It will probably outstrip and outsource me as a practitioner because it's going to have more knowledge than I do. But my role, and I think this is linking in with the second trend, is that I will no longer become that knowledge-rich, professional expert in the field of English studies. Instead, my role will morph into somewhat of a coach or a mentor, guiding my students to use the software to engage with the activity. And I think that is an idea, a concept that really did appeal to me within the show itself. That educators, the role of educators, is going to change in the 21st century. We've all seen it. There are highly specialized teachers out there that have a wealth of knowledge and they are superb in their understanding of their subject and understanding of their fields. They are experts. But how long until an AI software outstrips or outsources those experts? There are limitations now, but if we fast forward in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, there is a very real possibility that they will be outsourced. So the role of the educator is potentially going to change. I'm just thinking here in terms of time, we may not get on to the last segment of this show. I'm giving you more than I should have done, I suppose, in terms of my reflection of the day. But actually, I'm enjoying this. I suppose that's quite selfish, really, isn't it? I'm enjoying speaking, my reflecting. But actually, this is, these are thoughts that I need to digest. I'm learning as I'm speaking to you, my dear listeners. I'm reflecting on the experience myself. These are thoughts, by the way, that I'm sounding out to you. They're not rehearsed. They're not scripted. They're not. They're not practiced. It's not. This isn't like a falsification of my reflections. These are genuine reflections. As I'm sounding out to you, this is my brain kind of reflecting on the chaos of today. Because as I said to you at the start of the show, I am literally plopped down into my desk. I can tell you when I came in through my front door, soaking wet, upstairs. I'm still wearing my Teachers Talk radio T-shirt. Thank you, by the way, Tom. I absolutely love it. It's brilliant. I'm going to cherish this shirt throughout the Easter holidays, just to kind of show off that I'm a part of the team. But I come back downstairs. I can see my rabbits are loose. They've eaten the wire to my headphones, so I've had to steal my daughter's headphones. I've had to kind of cobble together, my ideas, my notes from the day, and I'm feeding back to you live. Whether this is good listening, whether this is good radio, that's probably up for debate. But for me, I'm sharing with you live the reflections of the day. Now, I will stop for the news now so that I can gather my thoughts and then move this reflection forward. And then I think we will explore the policy in AI possibly in a future episode. So I will stop for the news. Please do join us again whilst we finish the show. And I look forward to continuing on our reflections.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out! Visit johncattbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading!
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
In a week where Ofsted has found itself under increased pressure and scrutiny following the death of a primary school head teacher, The Independent has focused on the decision by many school leaders to remove references to Ofsted from websites. The removal of logos and other references from school letterheads, websites and other materials is being done in what many describe as solidarity with head teacher Ruth Perry. Other forms of protest against the inspectorate have included the wearing of black clothing and displaying photographs of Ms Perry in schools where inspections are taking place. Unions have also urged Ofsted to pause inspections, and the NEU handed in a petition to the Department for Education, which had 45,000 signatures, calling for an accountability system that was supportive, effective and fair. In a statement, Amanda Spielman, HMCI, said it would be against children's best interests to pause inspection, and that inspection was important for both schools and parents. It has been further revealed by the BBC that inspectors had visited Caversham Primary School, where Ms Perry was head teacher, in 2019, as part of a pilot of the latest inspection framework, and that Ms Spielman had also been present. In a newsletter written at the time, Ms Perry said she was proud of how well pupils and staff had responded to the experience and that feedback had been overwhelmingly positive. But a formal inspection in November 2022 rated Caversham Primary as inadequate as a result of failings in training, record keeping and checks on staff, although it did also state that children were provided with a good education and that the school was a welcoming and vibrant community. In a statement, Amanda Spielman said that the debate about reforming inspections to remove grades was legitimate, but any changes would need to meet the needs of parents and government. And a spokesman for the Prime Minister said, "We are confident the current rating system provides the right level of transparency for parents." In Manchester, students at the city's university who have been refusing to pay their rent in protest at high costs have been removed from a university building by bailiffs. The group of rent strikers had occupied the University of Manchester's Simon building, and videos on the BBC News website appeared to show some protesters being carried out. A spokesperson for the university said it regretted the action, but that the protest had been going on for a significant amount of time. Campaigners said the situation was disgraceful and shamed the university. Around 250 students cancelled payments in January and demanded a 30% reduction in rent, arguing they were struggling to buy food amid the cost of living crisis. A smaller group occupied the building, and it was this group who were removed by bailiffs, enforcing a court order after they had ignored multiple requests to leave. At the University of Birmingham, a recovery flat where students with different addictions can live together to help them complete their studies has been opened. The BBC reports on the programme, which is being pioneered by the university, and is trying to help students stay addiction-free. The Vale, a huge student village near the campus in Edgbaston, is home to thousands of undergraduates. In one of the large blocks of flats, 6 units have now been set aside for students in recovery. Supported by a peer manager, the flats are alcohol and drug-free, and currently are male only, although it is hoped another flat for 6 female students will open next year. The hope is that students can enjoy university life without missing out on support. The programme is supporting the Better Than Well project, which currently supports around 50 students and was set up to help students with addictions to be successful at university and with their recovery. On South Townside, a primary school in Jarrow kick-started their Kindness Matters Week as it became the first Kindness Matters school in the area. Pupils at St Joseph's Catholic Primary School and its staff were asked, "What does kindness mean to you?" And, in the run-up to the main event, completed a 30-day Kindness Matters challenge. Kindness Matters was set up in 2012 by John McGee, known as the Kindness Coach, and it teaches kindness and well-being to school children and teachers. McGee visited the school as part of the week, where he led a super learning day focusing on what the pupils had done so far and what they would do next to help the world be more kind. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I've got to episode 60. What better to celebrate 60 episodes but look at what potentially happens every 60 seconds online and do it in 60 seconds. To do this, I've used the term infographic in my search. Infographics are a great way to show visually a lot of data. They're not just for IT concepts, and I'd recommend seeing if you can find any that represent your subject. The most recent infographic I found was in a blog by Stephanie Hyman called What Happens in an Internet Minute. Feel free to look her up and read her research. Right, here we go. Start the countdown. In an internet minute, 174,000 apps are downloaded, 16.2 million texts are sent, 231 million emails are sent, 694 million songs are streamed, 6 million people buy something online, 5.9 million Google searches are made, 44 million people view Facebook live streams, 20.8 thousand active users are on LinkedIn, 2.1 million people are active on Facebook, 575,000 tweets are sent, 46,000 searches are done on Pinterest, 66,000 photos and videos are shared on Instagram, 2 million Snapchats are sent, 167 million videos are watched on TikTok, 452,000 hours of content are streamed on Netflix, 3.67 million YouTube videos are watched, and that's just the headlines of an internet minute. That's a lot of data flying around on the biggest network of networks there is. The internet. As always, if you have a question on tech, why not send it to @TT Radio Official. I'm Steve Woods, and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Okay. Now, welcome back to the last segment of the show. We just finished off there where you, whether it's a privilege or not, I don't know, but you got to listen to the insides of my head as I was reflecting on my day at the Bett Show 2023. All I was doing though was talking about kind of like the impact that some of the keynote speakers had on me as a professional, as an educator, but I didn't even delve into some of the other areas. And I do want to spend like the last, 15 minutes of this show just unpacking those for you. I would also like to speak about the new AI policy, but I think I'm going to have to tie that into a future show or suggest somebody else kind of within Teachers Talk Radio to kind of explore that and talk about that perhaps at length with a potential guest. But anyway, I do want to share with you the other keynote speakers I spoke to was assessment taking place online. And I did mention that Matt Wingfield, as well as the other leaders in that area, did speak at length about the role of assessment online. And throughout throughout the panel, they were talking and discussing about the role of their companies, which is all fascinating. But again, and this is probably a part of my review, this is probably my only critique of the show itself, is that there is a lot of noise and chatter in selling products. Buy me, buy me, buy me. There is a lot of that noise and chatter there. And, sometimes that could be quite deafening in terms of, being a practitioner, going there to kind of listen to the innovation, to listen to the forward-thinking practitioners, etc. If you can kind of tune out the noise and the chatter, you can pick up snippets of that innovation, and that's something that you have to have that kind of well-trained ear, I suppose, to be able to do. Now, these keynote speakers, they had a lot of important stuff to say about their companies and the role that they play in online assessment. And one particular speaker, who was the representative, he was a VP for AQA, Alpha Plus, an arm of AQA that does lots of online assessments. And it came to a question which I put toward the panel concerning the role of artificial intelligence, in assessment and the future of assessment. And he was quite forward in stating that actually it does cause him a lot of concern and worry about the rigor and the credibility of work that's produced online. But what he did say as well is that the use of artificial intelligence to generate questions and to generate exam papers actually can be quite beneficial. But not only that, he did also speak about breaking down the barriers between the haves and the have-nots in having access to fair and equal education. And go back to that point I made earlier in the show about a student not necessarily having a decent base or a set of parents that are willing to support, etc. Using AI might be that solution to support those students that might not have that backing in the home, to help them have access to their learning. But he also spoke, I got these kind of the inclination of this kind of globalization of assessment, and how in the West typically, and in the wealthier nations, we have a platform of assessment that gives credentials to the individual that can go on then to participate in more high functioning societies. And through artificial intelligence, these assessments could, in theory, be globalized so that everybody can have equal access and kind of perform on an equal playing field. I think this is very much pie in the sky thinking, whether this happens or not. But it was interesting to hear that from a representative of AQA. AQA being one of the biggest, if not, I think it is the biggest exam provider in Great Britain, in Wales, in Scotland, in Ireland, Northern Ireland, should I say? So that was quite interesting to hear. Just before we do finish off and we close, I spoke about some innovative technologies in the practice sets that Google spoke about. One thing actually that really did surprise me about today was esports. I was not expecting to go to Bett 2023 and to see so much attention and money and emphasis placed on electronic sports. I spoke to a few people today concerning this, and it was just interesting to hear them talk about esports and how they are going to be huge in decades to come. It really did take me. There were whole swaves and whole floor spaces dedicated to top spec machines and the delivery, as it were, of esports inside of educational settings. And at first, I was like, so this is basically gaming. If any of you don't know, I am an avid gamer. I love video games. I've been playing video games pretty much from when I was a child in the the early '90s onwards. I love video games. Role playing games in particular. So to me, video gaming is a hobby. It's a pastime. It's something you interact with for me anyway, for fun and enjoyment. So to see gaming inside of this innovative show today, and to hear lead thinkers and consultants and educators talking about esports in schools, I was a bit thrown off. I was like, well, why do we want students playing video games inside of schools? But actually, the discussions that I was having, a lot of them alluded to, well, why do we have games and sports inside of schools? And I was like, well, for physical exercise. Kids need to be healthy. It's like, okay, that's great. So they could be healthy. We could just get them running on treadmills and etc. etc. But in schools, especially in the private sector, you have highly competitive sports where students participate, in that co-curricular and develop into the sporting industry, a huge industry when we talk about sports. Think about rowing, think about rugby, think about football, think about cricket, think about the sports that schools champion and, they deliver to their students. And the point that really stuck to me in talking to one practitioner was, and by the way, when I talk about esports, the main sport that I was encountering was Formula One racing, basically racing simulators, and the setups that some of these people have. We're talking 3 screens that are surrounding you, so it's as if you're completely immersed in this video game experience, sat in a pod that could only be described as the shell of a Formula One racing car, with pedals, with steering wheel, with like a headset on your head. So there's a lot of investment that's been placed into these esports, this racing F1 simulators. And he explained to me that traditionally, if you wanted to be an F1 driver, you would have to invest thousands of pounds, countless hours of time. You'd have to have the right connections, know the right people to be able to immerse yourself in that world. And esports kind of strips away that privilege, and it opens it up, and can potentially open it up for anyone to participate in that sport. So, and actually, there is already competitions out there that award hundreds of thousands of pounds, dollars, whatever it may be, to actual competitors. And it got me thinking, actually, because there was a child that I taught 2 years ago. In fact, no, it's actually last year. He finished his GCSE. He's a great student. He was autistic. He for some reason he was placed into a bottom set class purely on the basis that he was autistic, but he was actually quite bright, and I think he achieved grade 6s and 7s for me in the end. But he was comfortable in this particular set anyway because his friends were there. But I remember him once talking to me about his interests and hobbies, and he spoke about driving F1 cars. And I was like, it's just a computer game. And he got really irate and spoke to me at length about his passion for F1. And actually, it wasn't just a hobby. He actually competed. And I kind of humoured him and just kind of brushed that aside. But going to this, the Bett 2023 and seeing, the time and effort that's placed on such a sport, it really took me back and made me think of this child, because he was actually talking to me about something quite serious to him, and he was competing in a league that I thought was just, a childish gimmick. But actually, he probably was competing against professional esport racers. And I think, and the kind of rhetoric and the message that I got today, and this is what I'm saying, is the surprise, as it were, of the show, is that there's potential here for educators to incorporate this into their their extended curriculum, as it were, outside of school. Kind of like you have those sports clubs after school, netball, rugby, whatever it may be. I think there's an opportunity for education in the 21st century to begin growing e-sport stars. Genuinely, I think colleges, schools that adopt this, they could be creating these rising stars of the e-sport network. if anyone is familiar with the Asian continent, like Korea, South Korea, China, esports are huge in Thailand as well. They are huge industries there, and I think that is now filtering across into the West, which is fantastic. But that was the surprise of the show. Now I am going to bring the show to an end today. My closing thoughts are that Bett 2023 was a great experience. It was shaping the future of education, expressing, all that is innovative. Now, I was really excited to attend, and for any of you listening, if you ever get a chance, do sign up and attend. If ever the opportunity comes your way, go there, embrace the technology, absorb the innovative culture that's around for you. It's an amazing experience. Now, if you have any questions on the topic, if you have anything that you want to contribute to the discussion, reach out to Teachers Talk Radio, reach out to me via LinkedIn. If you search for Mark Nichols, Future Leader, you will find me on there. Chuck those questions to us and we'll explore. But, other than that, I'll bring the show to a close today. Our next episode, we will explore the policy landscape of artificial intelligence, as well as look at some of the pressing issues on leaders in the 21st century. And by that, I mean the time that we have as educators being stripped away from us through the underfunding of our current government. Anyway, with that, I wish you all a good evening. It's been a fantastic day today. Thank you for the opportunity, Tom, and thank you, Seema, for your hospitality. It was great to meet you in person. Okay, have a good evening, guys. See you later.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.